proud that my ops didn't envy me. Passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time and something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk in, we the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've dime. Never lose and I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. They fight with me, know it's a KO.
Little play fake by McCamey. Looking downtown. Touchdown! Basket! Seven yards for the score.
Here's what they're in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And it's McCamey to basket. That's it. Now watch. Gordon does a pretty good job. He doesn't get his hands on him. He fell that little stutter. I like what he's doing, but he's got to keep his eyes on the receiver. As soon as his head.
2 backs and 2 tight ends. Play fake to Moore, looking up top for basket. Got him behind his man. Down, the catch is good at the 1-yard line. He got him behind Ernest Gordon, but it didn't matter. The basket comes up limping a little bit.
Well, again, this is the only pass they've shown throwing out of this formation, what Ernest Gordon does. Now, he does a better job. I like him to be putting his hand right there. He's looking up. It's a tough call.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Had to hit you with the triple day. Hey there. My name is Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. It is August 21st. We are 3 days away from the start of the UNM football season. Busy show again today at 8:30. Victor Flores, 406 MT, Montana Sports. He covers Montana State up in the beautiful state of Montana, which I would always like to go to. Looking forward to talk to him. He's first game week opponent, game week opponent, somebody who covers the opponent that we're talking to. We'll keep this trend going. I know he was on with Sean Ryder on the podcast. We reached out to him. This is the date we booked. We're not trying to steal the Journal's thunder, or are they trying to steal ours? I don't know. Nick Coppola, NMSU reporter for the Las Cruces Sun News. He's new down there. He covers high school sports down in Las Cruces and southern New Mexico. And he covers NMSU. Finally glad they have a beat reporter, so he will be joining us. Happy to talk to him. I love all the young journalists, Sean Ryder. These two guys seem pretty young, so I really am supportive of it. Excited to talk to them. 8:39 are those guests. 8:30 is Victor Flores. 9 is Nicholas Coppola. Looking forward to talking to them. Before I bring on one of the usual suspects, tomorrow night we'll be at Turquoise Desert Tap Room. 2 tickets to give away. There's a rib special. We love Armando over there. Every time I say that, I feel like I sound like Donald Trump. I love Armando. I love his ribs. Looking forward to that tomorrow night. We will be talking full slate. I forgot that I reached out to Dontrell Moore. He will be coming on this week. I've been busy. I had a bit of an emergency last night and today. So I need to reach out to Dontrell Moore. Hopefully he'll be on tomorrow night. But it'll be a full slew coming to you live there, 7 o'clock. Again, 2 ticket giveaway. That's on 528. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Santa Ana Star Hotel and Casino. Go make a bet on baseball. Head over there, watch your bet win, have a beer, have some food. All right, I bring in my guest, always on the panel. He's a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing tonight?
Good, Ryan. You got quite a lineup, and it's going to be good to hear from the Montana State beat writer. They've got a good football team that I think the more we're finding out about them, they're good. They're very good.
No, they are. And I'm going to bring this up because I had to go back. We'll get to that in a second. We talked about Dave Williams last night. We'll do it again. I'm going to throw the question out to you tonight. Am I forgetting anything on housekeeping? Don't forget the show. Don't forget our Saturday morning show. It's a football pregame show. We will do it every Saturday during the football season, college football season. It is called The Morning How. I don't think I played the commercial, so guess what, Ed? I'm going to do it right now.
Our head coach of our Lobo football program, Bronco Mental.
The details themselves, with the right preparation, can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Again, every Saturday at 9 a.m. What else do we have? CBS Sports just posted an article, and we might get into that. Which programs do you believe have the best NIL situations? College basketball. That is on their main page right now, so that's how little anybody gives a shit about Major League Baseball except for Jacob Neff and I. Feel free to comment. Oh, there he is. Bless it. I'll get to that in a second. Before I get to the comments, I want to post our question of the night. We haven't done that because we've been guest filled. And this was Eric's, and Ed, I pose it to you. What is a successful 2024 UNM football season to you? And I will answer that in a little bit, but I will go to the comments because this is muy importante. But from my main man,
Miguel Sanchez.
Mr. Hutz.
Mr. Hutz, why are you burning all your personal papers?
As of this moment, Lionel Hutz no longer exists. Say hello to Miguel Sanchez.
Say hello to Miguel Sanchez. Miguel, we've missed you. I've missed you.
To Miguel Sanchez.
The late, great Phil Hartman. And not getting political tonight. which we don't on this show. Slick Willie's talking. Bill Clinton's talking at the DNC. And every time I see Bill Clinton, I think about Phil Hartman and that Saturday Night Live skit where he's explaining like economic politics and world politics while he's eating in a McDonald's. And it's a great skit. Ed, if you've never, it's
Bill Clinton was mentioning that about how he loved to eat at McDonald's. Tragically, the way Phil Hartman died, real tragic. He was a funny guy.
No, super. I mean, the Simpsons episodes that I love, seasons 3 through 9 for the usual suspects that listen. That's what I love, and Phil Hartman's on there.
The Miguel Sanchez.
To answer your question, is the Montana State game on TV? We'll be in Midland, Texas, chasing a check on Saturday. Good luck chasing that check. This is one of 4 games on Saturday, and it is a standalone game. Florida State and Georgia Tech play in Dublin, Ireland, in the Aer Lingus Classic or whatever it is called. What is it called? Aer Lingus Classic. College football classic. Anybody seen the Departed? Where's your boy? Oh, he's studying Notre Dame. It's the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. It is between Florida State and Georgia Tech because, yes, when I think of college football, I think of Dublin, Ireland. That game is on ESPN at 10 a.m. UNM and Montana State are at 2 o'clock. That game, to plug UNM and do them some justice, as I have Frank's game notes in front of me, which are always informative, although I do find some grammatical errors. It is on the Lobo Radio Network, and you can listen to that online, 95.9 FM, 610 AM, or on I'm plugging them, and I don't even work for them. 770 KKOB, which is the flagship in Albuquerque. Gridiron Radio Network, Sirius XM 385. Play-by-play is Noah Britt, Josh Reynolds, and Kurt Kretschmer on the sidelines. I know Kurt. The game is on FS1, though. Miguel, Tim Brando, Devin Gardner, and Josh Sims on the call. Love Tim Brando. I know he got a hot take guy. But yes, the game is on television. Fox Sports 1, YouTube TV. You have the Fox Sports app. You just log into your provider. I think you get an hour free. So yeah, the game is on TV. There you go. And I'm going to throw out the question of the night again, so some people can answer. What is a successful 2024 UNM football season to you? All right, Ed, we talked about it last night. Eddie Nunez, the better looking, the more attractive, smarter Eddie Nunez. I'm joking, Ed. I always say that I'm stealing that line from Happy Gilmore. I use it all the time. You're my guy. I love you, other than the Cowboys. We talked about Dave Williams last night, and he was politicking with us on Monday, which I actually liked, at the UNM football press conference. He has been named interim vice president, director of athletics. I've only spoken to Dave for about 10 minutes, and I liked it. You have been very cordial with him. That sounded really creepy how I said that. I liked talking to Dave Williams the other day in public. You are pretty, we all liked Eddie. We've talked about, as I always say, as much as I take a big fat dump on UNM athletics in that department, I really liked Eddie Nunez. I never gave him much credit. If you've listened to this show for a while, very, very cordial with me and very, very nice to my mom and my son. But Ed, I wanted your thoughts on Dave Williams being named interim vice president and director of athletics.
48 hours after we talked to him, here it is. He mentioned that we need continuity. He mentioned about being a New Mexican, and he touted his son graduating from UNM Law School a year ago. Said his other son was at Hope. Feels like he's laid some roots down here. So there's step number one. There's several steps left for him to get to where he wants to be in the university. If they're going to Garnett Stokes, they're going to do a nationwide search. What are they going to do? But for Dave, that's got to be make him feel pretty good about his chances. He definitely let us know in no uncertain terms he would definitely like the position. And you mentioned last night he's been at Kentucky Westland at the Division II level at another school, 12 years worth of Division II. Being an athletic director at the D2 level, let us know that he was a big supporter of Eddie, and was there right in the trenches when Bronco Mendenhall got hired. So there's step number one for Dave. Like I said, I don't know him well. Always cordial to me when I see him. Always handshakes. How you doing? What's going on? So, hey, good for Dave Williams. Let's see what happens next, because we mentioned we don't know what's going to happen, and all we know is there are politics that come into play for positions like that. So let's see.
He mentioned what it means to be a New Mexican, which I understand that. It's one of the stupidest things you can say out there, like Michigan. I don't know why. This probably won't make any sense, but it's like, oh, I'm a Michigan man. Well, Charles Woodson was from Ohio, and he, that shit doesn't matter in the most part. But I don't know where I was going with that. All of his 3 children are either UNM alum or are now a freshman in college. His one son is a law graduate of UNM. His other daughter said she is a teacher, a second grade teacher, so she's got some sort of education degree from UNM, and his youngest son, can't talk tonight, is a freshman at the University of New Mexico and was wearing a Jordan less than LeBron shirt or greater than LeBron shirt. I don't remember which one it was. I always forget what the greater less than sign is. So kudos to my private school education before my UNM education. But I don't know. I thought it was great that he walked over and talked to us. As I've mentioned, and I said it last night, Paul Krebs was a dick. An absolute, and Eddie, Ed, you don't have to respond to that. It's just mine. I mentioned last night, it sounded like Jon Stewart telling Tucker Carlson that. I think, again, it's the personality, but Paul Krebs, I wasn't the nicest guy, and I was on the end of kind of guilt by association and pissing him off during my time at the Daily Lobo. I don't know. I don't think he was that nice of a guy. And obviously everything that happened, I thought Eddie did a great job. And I think a lot of what it is Eddie came in and did this. He brought Dave Williams in with him. I think Dave's been with him the whole time right now. So David Williams has been responsible for the Richard Pitino hire, the Bronco Mendenhall hire. And we always talk about, I'm going back to Paul Krebs real quick. We always talk about the Mike Loxley hire, and it's nothing against Yvonne Sanchez. He was on the staff, but he pushed Don Flanagan out too, which might have been just as more of a crime as pushing Rocky out for what Don Flanagan did, not only for women's basketball, but the women's program at the university, women's basketball in this state, and women's high school basketball in this state. He is somebody that I have dropped the ball on that we were trying to get on this show. That was my fault. We might do that again with, as we speed towards the 2024-25 college basketball season. But those are just my opinions. I don't know. I think Dave has a valid chance. Most nights we have a pretty good viewership on this show. I think it might, in my opinion, it might do Dave some justice to come on our show and talk and make his pitch, at least to our listeners, on why he should probably be the next athletic director at the University of New Mexico. Ed, do you have any final thoughts on that before we talk a little bit of football before we bring on Victor Flores?
Yeah, you know what?
Montana.
They have the press conference Mondays. We'll see him again. So
That's
I don't
true.
have any problem saying, Mr. Williams, would you mind coming on the show? I have no problem asking him. Then we'll see what he says. All he can say is no. But I don't know that he will, because like you said, he wants to get out there and make his case, I'm sure. And there'll be other shows besides ours, but we'd love to get him on for sure.
No, definitely. Before we talk a little bit of UNM football, affordable service, heating, plumbing, and air conditioning for all your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. They've been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and are still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating and cooling, electrical, as well as plumbing. They take pride in their staff, in their commitment to this community. Again, that's affordable service, heating, plumbing, and air conditioning. Appreciate them. And our other sponsors, Tim Sr., Tim Jr. at Hydro Bar, Affordable Solar, and Turquoise Desert Tap Room. Let me remove this. All righty. So thumbing through the game notes for the University of New Mexico. And it's not all bad, Frank. These are informative. I appreciate them. But just some tidbits here. And I mentioned this last night. UNM, since from 2017 to 2023, has won 19 games. To put that into retrospective, in 2015 and 2016, they won 16 games in 2 years. But I found this fascinating because I get to use my Ab Ripper X, which I did steal from Jim Rome. This soundbite, I hate it, but I love it.
Richard.
Oh, wait, that's Richard, who's not joining us tonight. Where is my hate it? There it is.
I hate it, but I love it.
Well, I don't know how that applies here. I just wanted to play Tony Horton. This is Stat Frank Hates updating. So 5,411. That's the number of days since UNM's last blocked punt, October 31st, 2009 to August 24th, 2004. The Lobos have the longest streak in FBS. Overall, opponents have punted 845 consecutive times without a Lobo block. The next longest streak, Utah has the third longest streak at October 24. Wow, that blows my mind with Utah. So that goes back to the Mike Loxley era. So special teams. And I think of Ned James always saying offense scores points, defense wins games, and special teams wins championships. I won't read that stat, but we're going to talk Montana football with Victor Flores of 406 Montana Sports. I keep wanting to say Montana. I'm sorry. He covers Montana and Montana State. But Ed, we are now inching closer to 48 hours away from kickoff. And I have posed the question to our listeners. We've kind of talked about it, but we have, and then we haven't. What is a successful 2024 UNM football season to you?
I'd say 4 wins. You know, they were projected to win. You said 1.5. Is that the wins?
I'm gonna get you to say it. Game and a half. Game and a half.
Game and a half.
The over-under is a game and a half. So if you take the game and a half at the over and they win 2 games, and you laid whatever kind of juice down at minus 120, so you bet $120, you would win 100 if they won 2 games, and it doesn't matter at any point during the season. So even if they were 1 win and they beat Hawaii, you get that win, obviously. But yeah, it's a game and a half. And the line on Action Network, which I use a lot, and I'll just bring this up very, very quickly. Thank you, Action Network. You're not a sponsor, but I'm just showing this. The consensus is at 11.5, if you see it right here. So it has it has moved from 4.5 to 7.5. I don't even understand the line, but yeah, it's a game and a half. Ed, I interrupted you there. Go ahead. I stole your thunder.
No, that's okay. But I think I'll say 4 wins with the chance to get 5. I'm comfortable saying that. I'm not going to say they'll win any more. I don't think this year than 5. But I think at the end of the year, people will say Bronco has the program headed in the right direction. I'm very optimistic that by the season's end, people will definitely say that and be excited for next year. But I'll say 4 wins with a chance maybe to get 5.
Again, feel free to comment on YouTube and Twitter at the Pit Press NM. Just showing that up. The artist formerly known as Twitter X, excuse me. Yeah, you know who, even though he was like 10 Jaeger bombs deep last night, Jared Chester said that he thought this team was, he was more optimistic than most. Sean Ryder sounded very optimistic. Again, I feel like it could be an 0-12 season or a 7-5 season. I don't know. I find it very, very fascinating that the Sharps in Vegas have been betting Montana State, but again, they know what they are. They, from what I've read and what I've heard, is that there's a lot more optimism here, and it's the playing the I don't know card at with UNM and what Bronco Mendenhall. Again, this is a team that had 65 players on the roster in spring, and then you have 40 new players. It's pretty insane. I see Victor Flores has joined us. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back with Victor Flores of 406 Montana Sports. I hope I had that right. Be right back. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by Ed Nunez.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mandel.
The details themselves, with the right preparation, can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. I love all the work Eric does, but it sounds like that wolf is about to die. He's going to text me for that. I'm always joined by the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970, Mr. Ed Nunez. Again, appreciate our sponsors, Hydrobar, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Affordable Service. Did I say before? Yeah, Affordable Service, heating, plumbing, and air conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. And they have been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and are still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, as well as plumbing. They take pride in their staff, their commitment to the Albuquerque community. All right, we go to our first guest of tonight, and I really, really appreciate his time. His name is Victor Flores from 406 Montana Sports. I hope I had that right, not Mountain Sports. Welcome to the show, man. How are you doing?
Good. We just say MT generally, but you are right that the MT stands for Montana. So in Montana, Spanish for mountain. So you're right on all three fronts.
Okay, perfect. 406 MT Sports. I apologize for butchering that.
No problem.
I have a degree. My background is in print journalism. Being on camera and hosting a radio show isn't my forte, I guess. We appreciate your time. You cover Montana and Montana State athletic programs. What has made head football coach Brent Vigen so successful at Montana State?
A whole bunch of things. I think he's developed a good culture. Recruited well. Kind of a lot of the things, the typical things. They have really good resources. He's done a really good job at recruiting the state, finding guys outside. I think doing a really good job with transfers as well. Really leaning into and embracing the portal era, not at least not leaning away from it. I think he's a calming presence. He is not the most rah-rah guy you'll ever see, at least not on camera. But he does have an intensity that you kind of see behind the scenes from time to time or on little video clips in the locker room. I think but he's a very steady hand. It seems like players really enjoy playing for him. He's just a good guy, a guy that people respect, and yeah, I think there's just everything. And he does a lot of this thing called double repping in practice, where they have the 3s and 4s going up against each other, and the 1s and 2s going up, and a mix of that. So not a lot of programs do all 4 groups basically practicing at the same time. So I think he's developed really good depth as well, and that's a large part of that.
We definitely know that is probably the strength going against UNM this weekend. I'm going a little off the rails here, and a little bit. If I could ask your background, and I jumped the gun with the Montana State questions, but how did you find yourself in sports journalism? Are you from Montana? And we had not a lifelong, but we had a gentleman who was a staple as a sports broadcast journalist here in Albuquerque, Mike Powers. He's from Montana, and he was a University of Montana grad. But the second part of that question, just talking to him and the energy, and I've seen it. I'm slowly loving FCS. But just describe how much Montana and Montana State love their football and the state as a whole.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring. I'm not from Montana. I'm from California, from San Francisco. Went to school at the University of Oregon. Go Ducks, of course. So I was a journalism major there, and then I've been kind of around this region for a while. Just got a job in Idaho to start out right after college. A couple jobs in Idaho, then ended up in Montana and Billings at first, and then relocated me to Bozeman, where I've been for the last 4 years covering Montana State, really just Montana State, and helping out with other stuff here and there. But yeah, I kind of always knew there was a big rivalry between Montana and Montana State, and I could feel it, when I was in Billings, but not covering the teams, and was always, aware of it, and not always, I should say, not when I was growing up and not in college. They were kind of not on the radar, but you hear things here and there about the programs, and then being in it and being at the stadiums. I mean, they're the pro teams of Montana, really. And if you just look geographically, it makes a lot of sense. There isn't a pro team closer than Denver or Seattle to really any Montana town, and those are 8-hour drives away basically from everywhere. There isn't another Division I team maybe closer than Boise, Idaho. So they are the big thing in town. Montana is really prideful of the people here, prideful of a lot of their athletes who were from Montana and play at these schools. So just kind of a perfect storm that's made the passion really grow over many decades.
I appreciate that answer. I have a little bit of history with the University of Oregon, and it goes back to the 2010 season when UNM went up there and lost 72-0. You can Google that if you'd like, but I'm not gonna bore with you. I have an Oregon Ducks hat because of that. Montana State averaged 7.8 yards. Was 2010?
Yeah, that was my first year at Oregon. So yeah, I think I remember.
Were you at the 70
game a little bit? I wasn't there. I wasn't at the game, but I remember watching it for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was over Labor Day weekend. I had written that UNM was going to lose to UNM. I wrote a column for the Daily Lobo that UNM was going to lose to Oregon 72-0, and then ran into the head football coach at a bar, and he cursed me out, and then it was a Public Records Act. So there you go. That's my 5 minutes of fame. Ed knows I don't like to tell that story, but if you Google my name with Mike Loxley and Ryan Samori, there you go. Anyway, back to Montana State. They averaged just under 8 yards per rush last season. I'm going to gather it's a lot of credit to this offensive line, and everything that I've heard and read, it seems like kind of the same core. What makes rushing the ball so successful, at least last year, for Montana State? And it looks like they're going to try to change things up this year, but can you elaborate on how well they can rush the ball?
Yeah, it's a whole combo of things. They've had good offensive lines really for 5+ years. I mean, for a lot of their history, that's kind of been the bread and butter and the foundation of the program for the last couple regimes, last couple coaching staffs. And it's really been the strength and a focus on both sides of the ball. The trenches are for Brent Vigen, and they've done it in different ways. Their first year, they had a few guys. They had 4 seniors and one guy who's in the NFL now, and Lewis Kidd kind of bounced around some teams, and they threw in a bunch of new guys that they were able to really perform well, and they actually did in Vegan's first season more inside zone blocking, and they changed to outside zone kind of to fit their offensive linemen who are a little more athletic and maybe not quite as big. And it ended up being a better rushing season. And a lot of that's credit to the linemen and the scheme. And then you have just this stable of running backs. It seems like they can never have too many running backs, and they never have a real big drop off anywhere, which is a lot of credit to the scheme and to the talent that they recruit. I mean, I think being a run heavy school, that's a FCS power, you can get pretty good running backs. They know they're going to get the ball a lot and score a lot of touchdowns. And then they've had really good quarterbacks who run the ball. And really, since Vegan's been there, one guy in Tommy Millott, who is just one of the fastest guys on the team, and can run the ball. I mean, he's just a dynamic runner, a hard runner, good at, he's one of those guys that he turns the corner and you think he's going to get tackled and he just keeps turning it, and then he's upfield and gets a first down. So that he really makes the engine run for sure as far as like individual players go. The offensive line is deep, has been deep. They've had a lot of depth. I mean, we're going to see that depth tested this weekend because they have a lot of injuries on the line and a lot of new guys that they're kind of trying to put in or see if they can play well. But there's no reason to doubt that offensive line can continue to play well. And a lot of that's because of development and recruiting that position really heavily.
Victor, you talked about the offensive lines and the way Coach Vegan is built around the system there, athletic offensive linemen. And, one thing Coach Mendenhall said in the paper this morning, Bronco Mendenhall said that they have systems they believe in. They recruit for those systems. They're comfortable with the defensive and offensive systems. This is a very good team, a very solid team. And New Mexico, nobody knows what New Mexico is about with the new team and new players. Coach Mendenhall certainly comes as a winner, but I think a lot of people have a lot of questions, hence the Bobcats being 11.5 favorites. But they've talked about quarterback Tommy Millott and the offense being more balanced. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think they know that that's the best way to win is when you're unpredictable and when you can be effective in more ways than one. I mean, yeah, they've had success just running it down teams' throats, and they have no problem doing that. But I think they know there's a cap on that. If you become predictable, and if another team is really good at stopping the run, there's a limit to that. And the other big one, of course, is keeping guys healthy. And Millott has had injury issues his entire career. Every season he's had some sort of injury, and not all of that is necessarily due to running the ball, but it doesn't help. And I don't think anybody thinks, running him more, or, there's no extra risk in running him more. So that's another big one. I think they want to be able to use him, but not necessarily rely on him or ride him to wins, especially before the games get really important. Even any non-conference game for them, yes, it matters, and winning anything matters, but they know that conference play is where they really are going to have to play their best. So, but I don't think they're necessarily, going to go into this game trying to hold anything back. But I think those are the two big reasons. Being more balanced. They also have a lot of really talented receivers. So Millott's, they don't want to get him hurt. They want to be more unpredictable, but they have a really strong, maybe the best receiving core they've had under Vegan, and some really talented tight ends. So I think they know that they have good talent at the receiving position. So, why keep them sidelined and not use them? Use as much of your weapons as you can.
You mentioned some of the offensive linemen. Justice Perkins is out. Cole Sane will step in at the center position. You mentioned there's some banged up linemen, but again, this is a veteran unit that it seems to perform pretty well. How big of an issue is that at the center position on Saturday?
Yeah, it's a little TBD. We don't know exactly how Sane will perform in that position because we've never seen him in his pretty long career now. I mean, he's the most experienced guy, the most longest tenured senior. I think he came to or started his college career in 2018. So he's been around for a long time and started at guard a couple of years ago. And it was actually kind of ironically slated to be the starting center in 2021. He got hurt in fall camp, and then Justice Perkins filled in and then started every game after that. And now Justice Perkins gets hurt in fall camp and Cole Sane is filling in for him. So a little bit of a reversal of fortunes there. But I think, we'll see. We don't know exactly how well Sane will snap the ball. No reason to believe he won't, but Perkins has been just automatic, never a bad snap. And he's a tremendous blocker, of course. And I don't really fear that Sane is going to be much worse than Perkins necessarily, but it's different, and they had to reshuffle a lot of the offensive line around. They're already down 2 starters from last year. Omar Abedian transferred to Baylor, and Rush Reimer, both were guards last year. Rush Reimer transferred to Cal, so they were already going to have to rely on some unproven guys or guys who didn't play a ton last year, and now they have even more questions there and more just testing of the depth for sure.
Sounds like they've got that. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll turn over to Ryan. If Coach Vegan, continue, he's had success there. Again, this is an excellent, well-coached team. But if he continues to have the success that he's having, does he have a clock ticking with his time left there at Montana State? There's going to be other schools that are probably looking at him as a successor. Is the clock ticking if he continues to have this kind of success?
Yeah, I think so. There's a perception for sure. It's hard to read. There's not a lot that necessarily leaks out about from his office or from Montana State as far as if he has offers. There was some rumors last year that he was, I think even New Mexico, there was maybe some rumors, but I don't know how true that was or how true some of these Mountain West schools were. North Dakota State opened up last year, and he went to North Dakota State. He coached there for a really long time. There was a lot of worry from Montana State fans that he would go to North Dakota State, and he didn't, and maybe he wasn't really offered. It's hard to know, again, how much the conversation. I think there's certainly a ticking clock, at least perceptually. He's never really left any of his programs, North Dakota State, Wyoming, in quicker than 7 years or so, give or take. And so that's a encouraging sign for MSU fans that he's not going to jump ship really, really soon. But again, he's not from Montana. He maybe doesn't have a whole lot of things tying him down. He does have kids who are one kid on the team, and Jake Vegan, and then a quarterback son who's about to join the Bobcats next season, and then another younger son. So maybe that will keep him around. It's a little, again, I have never heard enough to really know one way or the other if he's thinking of leaving, but I think there's reasons to be optimistic that he's gonna try to stick it out as long as he can here and try to win a national title.
That's definitely good news for Montana State. Ryan, go ahead.
I'm trying not to. Sean's a friend of ours, Sean Ryder at the Journal, so I'm trying not. We thought we beat you to the punch, so I'm trying not to ask the same question. So, Victor, I'm sorry for that. We're joined by Victor Flores from 406 MT. What was it? MT Sports. I'm so sorry.
That's right. Yep.
MT Sports. Perfect. I don't know why I was like having three things popping in my mind. 406 MT Sports. The defense yielded about 20 points per game last year. College football, that's pretty damn good. A lot of experience at the linebacker position. The secondary is just as good. A lot of veteran experience there. Can you elaborate on that, and what should we expect on Saturday and for FCS fans and Montana State fans from this defensive core the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's funny. They would be considered, I think they would say defense was the bigger disappointment. Of course, the offense was among, if not the best offense in the FCS. So the defense lacked by comparison. But yeah, it had a lot of good moments. Really performed well against South Dakota State, who ended up winning the FCS title, but suffered some injuries in that game and throughout the course of the season. Some were not season ending, but just a lot of guys who were banged up, especially in the secondary. And that proved to be quite a big issue down the road. And their pass defense was not as strong, but they have so many good players everywhere. And I think it starts up front, especially at the ends. But Brody Grebe being an All-American, and he's a guy who looks like he's got an NFL future, has the measurables to be an FBS guy if he wanted to be, but he's a Montana guy, and he's sticking it out. And I would not be shocked if he's on an NFL roster next season. So he's kind of going to be the one that would stand out the most. On the other side would be Marcus Weir, the right guard. And they've gone up against each other a lot when Marcus Weir was playing right tackle. So that's kind of been a fun thing to watch in practice, to potentially future NFL guys going up right up mano a mano. But yeah, Grebe, Kenneth Eiden on the other side is really talented and could have a real big breakout season this year. But the secondary, they're missing Drew Polidor, who was their starting free safety last year, who really broke out and looked like he was going to be a all-conference type guy. And then he got hurt throughout the last season, then suffered another injury in the spring and is going to miss this game and probably more, at least, looks like that right now. So that's a pretty big loss, although Blake Stillwell filling in has been a solid replacement. And Rylan Ort at safety, the other safety position, has been really good. One of their captains, one of their best players. Every level they have talent, and it just, I think for some of it, it's just, can they stay healthy and can they kind of play up to their potential? But there's really not a hole that you can totally point to other than maybe tackle, because they lost one of their best players last year, Sebastian Valdez, to transfer to Washington, but they look pretty solid there at this point. But kind of wait and see to see how they perform in games.
You had mentioned earlier that, and you just mentioned this transfer to Washington, the 2 offensive linemen had transferred to Cal. An ACC power P4, whatever you want to call them. And then Baylor, I mean, it's kind of a cliche question, but that speaks to what kind of talent is not only at Montana State and the FCS level, correct?
Yeah, especially on the lines for these schools, for these programs. I mean, and you see it at the top level with the Dakota State schools. They just seem to churn out new guys every year. And being from North Dakota State, which is the biggest juggernaut in FCS history for sure, and the biggest dynasty, it's no surprise that that's been a focus there. And again, I think it speaks to the double repping where they get offensive linemen a lot of reps when they're young and build them up and get them ready and knowing that guys are going to go down. So yeah, it speaks to depth. It's interesting. The 2 guards last year didn't play. They weren't starting at guard the previous season in 2022. Reimer was a left tackle, and Ibedion, who was the Baylor transfer, he was kind of a backup who rotated in a lot. And their 2 starting guards in 2022, JT Reed and Cole Sane, who's now the center, of course, they were starting. They missed all last season with injuries. So they actually didn't really lose any starters, theoretically, going into this season. Now Reed might not be available on Saturday, but this shows they've had so many guys that could start that, yeah, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches over there.
We usually have a plethora of guys joining us. 2 former football players. They didn't make it tonight, and one of them is he's got lineage. And I know I've been in your shoes. I've been a sports reporter. I own this company, and I do sports bet. But I think it's interesting and one of the guys has Vegas ties. His uncle used to work for the Mirage on M Live. But anyway, I find it, and if you don't have an elaborate answer, that's okay. But we went to Mountain West Conference Media Days, and FanDuel had shown the line, and it was 4.5 to Montana State as favorites. And then, UNM was the underdog at 4.5. It's significantly jumped in a month and a half. And as we talk right now, Action Network's consensus is 11.5. I know you've written that you've picked the Bobcats to win, despite all of this UNM paraphernalia in the background. I'm very, very objective, and I'm very critical of the program, but I grew up in Albuquerque and went to school there. But are you, if you follow any kind of sports gambling, for an FCS team to jump that line, to jump so high, are you shocked? Do you have any thought on it? Do you not care? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I've thought a lot about it. It is striking. I know some people in Montana media I've heard, and just people that I've talked to or heard from, have been surprised. They can't think of another Big Sky favorites facing an FBS team. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't have been. There was a recent game just in the last couple of years, Sacramento State over Colorado State. That was 20 plus points. Idaho last year beat Nevada by 20 plus points as well. So certainly, I think that probably plays a part of it. There's recent precedent. There's been precedent over the years that Big Sky schools can go into, struggling Mountain West schools and win by a bunch. I think that probably plays a large role in the line here. I don't know Vegas that well. I don't really have too much knowledge on how the lines get decided. I know obviously lines move based on how people are betting too. So that could be a big explanation for why this has moved so much. And as you guys know very well, and as I've learned very much over the last few weeks, I mean, this New Mexico team is so unknown and so uncertain to where they're going to be that, my pick and the Vegas line are ones that I don't have a ton of confidence in, just because I don't know we know this team is well coached, has a very promising coach, and brought in some FBS talent. So that alone, some Power 5 talent at that too. So that alone gives me pause. But I think, there's enough signs to understand why they are going that way. And Montana State is, these other teams that I mentioned that beat Mountain West schools were not top 4 FBS or FCS teams, and this one is. So I think that plays a large part of it. But yeah, when you dig into the details, it's yeah, I wouldn't bet on this game at all. But when you dig into the details, I certainly feel less confident in Montana State.
I appreciate that answer. I was going to ask this question anyway, and I'm sorry it's repetitive when your podcast with Sean. Again, Sean's a friend, and it just, I think between Albuquerque and Montana, I grew up in New Jersey. It's like there's probably not a lot of people covering UNM Montana sports, but the goal this year is a national title for Montana State, correct, at the FCS level?
Yeah, I think deep down, I mean, they're not necessarily saying national title. They have in the past, and I think maybe they're trying to be more one day at a time, win every day, kind of, or every moment, or I forget how win the inches is kind of been their motto a little bit. So, but yeah, no, I mean they've had national championship aspirations since they made it back in 2021.
Lastly, I'm a big Daily Show guy, and then you go back to ESPN and the Late Late Show. You had the opportunity to interview Craig Kilborn, who I did not know played football at Montana State, and I don't know many of those listening. He was the sleazy villain in Old School, but I didn't get a chance to listen to the podcast. I saw it. I will give it a listen. I've been monitoring your work the last 3-4 weeks because I'm trying to learn as much as Montana State as I can, and I was enthralled with the FCS playoff last year, so I'm more going to be paying attention more this year. But what was that like, meeting somebody of that stature and interviewing him?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, my editor just kind of out of the blue was like, "Hey, I've been wondering about Craig Kilborn," and he actually did one slight correction. He played basketball at Montana State, but was an athlete at Montana State.
I apologize.
No, it's fine. I think he's very self-deprecating about it. He was mostly a bench player, tall guy, but said he kind of played in a different era or the wrong era, you could say, where he was more of a passer, more of a shooter when back then that was more down low kind of play and physical. But no, it was awesome. I mean, I thought I might not be able to talk to him just because I reached out to a few people who I thought might know who he was or know how to get in contact. Didn't get it, and then I just DM'd him on Instagram one day, and he got back to me right away and was like, "Yeah, I'd be happy to." And he was just super gracious. I mean, I was I kept expecting another shoe to drop where he wasn't gonna be able to talk or he wouldn't want to be forthcoming with certain details, and he was just always. He would respond to my text whenever I had little questions and little detail things that I wanted to add to the story. And yeah, just a fascinating guy. And I think there's, it's fascinating why he walked away from late night. I mean, he was in the middle, kind of the prime of his career, wanted to do late night. He was the late show. He was probably, if he stayed in it, maybe could have gotten to the late show or gotten to one of those really big talk show, or late night shows. And he just decided to walk away and has kind of been mostly doing minor things on the side. But, you talk to him, it's just he didn't seem like he really enjoyed it that much and didn't need the money, he said, and didn't really need the spotlight. And I wasn't addicted to the stage was kind of a phrase he had. So it was fascinating to talk to him. And again, I can't say enough about how gracious he was because you sometimes are skeptical or wonder how much guys like that will want to give time to some random person like me, some random reporter who they have never heard of. So I couldn't have been more grateful and thankful that he was as good as he was.
I've been in your shoes. I understand that. He is Victor Flores for 406 MT Sports. You are this is your first trip to Albuquerque, correct?
That's correct.
All right, perfect. Well, I hope you look forward to it. If you can hit us up on Twitter. If you need any recommendations for food, we appreciate your time here on the Pit Press Live. Thank you very much. Safe travels down south.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to have some green chili when I get down there.
There we go. Now you're a true New Mexican. It's Victor Flores, 406 MT Sports. Safe travels, man. I'll see you on Saturday and introduce you in person. Thank you very much for your time. Again, safe travels.
Appreciate it.
All right, Ed, what did you take away from that? I think this Montana State team is pretty darn good.
Look, I got to tell you this, that I'll give you my final prediction score Saturday for the morning howl, but they are solid. They're very good. They're very good. They're well coached. And we mentioned the games are won in the trenches. They've got good offensive linemen, a veteran offensive line, a good defensive line, good running backs. It's going to be a tall task for New Mexico. That doesn't mean I don't want them to win. If we sit up in the press box, I can't cheer. I remember last year I made, and that's hard for me to sit on my hands up there. But it's going to be very, very hard for UNM in their opening game. I think it's going to be very tough. But the thing is, look, this is what we've learned more and more. They're units that have played together. They've executed well. They've got the rush stats, 7.8 yards per rush. They scored 39 points a game last year. They've got people returning. They've got a good coach. They've got a good system. Coach Mendenhall said that. UNM is looking at their first game with new guys, a new system, a new coach. Might take a while. So that's just what I think right now. We'll see.
I'll go to, I will probably save my prediction for Saturday morning. Although I've already bet I've got it at 10 plus 10, and I won't say how or where or when, how I did it, but just very quickly, Ice Baby, stop, collaborate, and lifts, and Ice is back with a brand new invention. Bronco's the right man for the job. I really wouldn't put it into wins or losses. I just want to see a better team all around. And the wins are going to come with all the hard work and everyone trusting each other. Also, everyone buying into the system in goal of Coach Bronco. Wish all the young men lots of luck and bright future. I'm going to say this. That's one of the better comments we've gotten in several weeks. Thanks, Ice Baby. Quick commercial break. I'm Ryan Tamori. This is Ed Nunez. Nick Nunez, son of Ed Nunez, will be joining us, as well as Nicholas Coppola, the new sports reporter down at the Las Cruces Sun News. Covers high school sports, and he covers the Aggies down there. He'll be joining us in roughly, 2-3 minutes. Again, this is the Pit Press Live, and my name is Ryan Tamori. Want to thank Victor Flores from 406 MT Sports. Appreciate him breaking down Montana State, as we are less than 72 hours away from UNM's first football game of the 2024 season and the Bronco Mendenhall era.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
Details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I'm going to add Nick Nunez, and Nick Coppola will be with us in a second. You know what, Nick, since you didn't get to join us last night, and I didn't get to mention it because we had 3 straight guests, Where is it? Oh no, there was breaking news last night. J-Lo filed for divorce with Ben Affleck, and Rick's not on, so I didn't get. I know I'm going to push it to our guest, but me being the old guy and watching South Park from 1997 on, every time I think of Bennifer, if you can hear it,
I can, man. There's a lot of ways you can go with J-Lo. I lose track. I don't know if this is the third or fourth time that they've gotten together and then broken up, but tragic, I guess.
All right, taco flavored kisses. All right, we're gonna go to our next guest. He is let me fix this. He is a new reporter down in Las Cruces. Nick Coppola for the Las Cruces Sun News. You think I would know that being a print guy here myself. Nick, welcome to the state of New Mexico, and I'm going to hit you with this. All right, that's enough of me being an old man. Nick Coppola, the new sports reporter for the Las Cruces Sun News. He's covering high school sports down there, and that's the second time I've played Oklahoma on this week when I did my top 25 on Saturday. Welcome to New Mexico, man. How are you tonight? And thank you for joining us here up north and in the Albuquerque area.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me on, Ryan. You actually pronounced my last name right the first time, correctly. Not many people do that, so I'll commend you for that. That was impressive.
Well, you know, the Ed and Nick are going to get it again, and all of our listeners here in the Albuquerque area. It's those New Jersey roots, and my last name ain't Italian, but when you grow up in Central New Jersey too. So I also probably was going to do the highlights of or play another soundbite of like Rigoletto or something. But anyway, let's talk some sports. You are NMSU athletics. I know John Romero is happy. You are a young reporter from the University of Oklahoma, but you're from Lubbock. How in the hell did you end up from Lubbock to Norman?
So I did grow up in Lubbock. I always really loved sports. So I always wanted to watch sports. I always wanted to know everything about it. I always wanted to know every single detail about every single thing that was going on in my favorite sports and things like that. And around when I was in high school, that's when I really discovered I had a talent for writing, and when teachers were pointing out to me as well. And so I wanted to find a way to marry the two things. And I found that avenue in sports journalism. And so I wanted to go to a school with a good journalism program and a good also student paper to join as well. And I did love Lubbock, but I also got to the point where I kind of wanted to leave the city a little bit and to start a brand new chapter of my life in a new city and in a new place, just to get out of my comfort zone for a little bit and just live life on my own, I guess, and see what that was like. And, you know, Oklahoma's got a really good journalism program. They had a really good student paper. I fell in love with the university and the campus when I first got there. And I prayed about it a lot, and I really thought that's where God wanted me to go. And so I feel like a combination of those reasons, I feel like made OU the easy choice for me.
I worked for the UNM student newspaper. So any young student journalist, and this was a million years ago, I'm an old man now. I have much respect for you. I just had Victor Flores on, and then you'll probably meet, if you haven't already, Sean Ryder from the Albuquerque Journal. I've got much respect for you guys, so I appreciate it. There's a gentleman up here that you might meet when UNM plays NMSU in any sport. His name is Van Tate. He's on Channel 13 KRQE. It's a CBS affiliate in Albuquerque, and he once told me that somebody told him it was not Lubbock, that it was Lubbock. Have you ever heard it pronounced Lubbock?
That's the first time I've ever heard it pronounced like that from anyone. You will not find a person in Lubbock or anywhere in West Texas pronounce that. I think you might be exiled into Kansas or Iowa or something like that if you ever even came close to pronouncing it like that. So no, I've never ever heard it pronounced like that.
I've never heard it covered Lubbock, and I just thought it was hilarious. And I covered a UNM football game in Lubbock. It was fantastic. And Norman is great. I visited Norman. If I could redo my whole life, it would be UT Knoxville. But Norman was very, very cool. What did you know about NMSU, New Mexico, or Southern New Mexico before you interviewed or took the job at the Sun News?
About New Mexico State athletics, admittedly, not much. And I knew a little bit about Las Cruces and just New Mexico as a whole. my dad once took me and my family on just a little trip around there through Roswell and then Las Cruces and Albuquerque and things like that, just on a little vacation. So I've been to the state before. I'm familiar with the area, but I'm familiar with the athletics program. Not that much. I knew football was a program that historically hasn't done well. I remember them making the bowl game for the first time in however many years, like 40, 50 years, something like that, and how huge of a deal it was. And it got covered a lot just because it was their first bowl game in a while. And then I saw them beat Auburn last year. So that was kind of an eye opener for me in terms of their program. And but I've definitely read a lot into New Mexico State sports, obviously. Since taking this job, and I'm looking forward to getting to know more. I've received a lot of positive feedback from the community. This seems to be a very dedicated fan base that's looking to know more about their team and is excited to watch their team this season. So I'm hoping to bring that in terms of coverage this year.
I got a question for you, and I don't know if it's a fair one. Okay, Ryan?
No, go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah. Iconic play-by-play announcer Jack Nixon for the Aggies just announced his retirement. It's been there. It's about 1974, 1975. And, Jack's a great – and I think somebody wrote this. Picture is painted by, team identifies with the voice, and Jack's been there for a long time. I don't know if it's a fair question or not, but, you just got there. But I know you've heard of Jack and what's been the thoughts around Las Cruces? With Jack announcing his retirement, he's an iconic legend there, man. He really is. So what's been the thoughts there?
Oh yeah, when I tweeted about that and I posted the video of him announcing his retirement, there was a lot of engagement around it, and there was a lot of people just wishing him well. And it seems like he's a very beloved figure within Las Cruces and within New Mexico State and things like that. And that always seems to be the case with local radio guys. I know, being from Lubbock, that's how we felt about guys who are on the radio for Texas Tech, and that's how people at OU feel about Toby Rowland, who's their radio guy up there. So, yeah, it did not surprise me at all that people feel that way about Jack, and really feel bittersweet about his impending retirement, especially since he's done the job for so long, especially since he stuck around for so long as well, and has been through all the moments, some highs and some lows as well. And I imagine if you do the job for 4+ decades, people really identify with people like that. And so, yeah, I didn't really know much about him either before I came to Las Cruces, but evidently the New Mexico State fans know a lot about him, and I look forward to getting to no more, I guess, because I feel like that's going to be something I'm going to be keep my eye out on in terms of coverage and things like that. So yeah, I wasn't surprised that people feel the way that they do, because he's certainly a legendary figure in the city.
It's always a change when there's a new voice, and people will have to get used to that new voice, and they will, because they're Aggie fans, and Jack had a certain way of painting his picture, and people will get used to it after a while. Son, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick Coppola, Nick Nunez here, play-by-play announcer for ProView Networks. It's nice to meet you, man. I'm glad you're covering New Mexico State and the local high school sports down there in Las Cruces. It looks like you just recently got on the job. August 5th is the article that came out in the Las Cruces Sun News. So before you got there, they had Conference USA Media Day. Head coach Tony Sanchez, in his first season as head coach for New Mexico State, was quoted saying, "We want another 10-win season. We want to compete for a third straight bowl, and we want to compete for a conference championship." Some of us up here in Albuquerque, obviously, it's a rivalry. We hear that comment, we're like, really? After you got 37 people outgoing? But what's the mood in Las Cruces? What are fans thinking about the New Mexico State this upcoming season? Do they think they're going to be competitive?
I'd say the mood around the fan base has been optimistic. There's a lot of excitement around the team, and probably it comes from the fact that this has been the best stretch of football, probably if in a long time for New Mexico State. They make consecutive bowl games, and that's pretty huge for a program like New Mexico State's. And there's a lot of the transfers that have come in. Coach Sanchez feels excited about him. The fan base certainly feels excited about them as well. They've had a couple returning guys made some watch lists as well. I know Cordell David just made one today. Both their returning all conference linemen have also been on some watch lists, and I think both of them were on the all conference watch list as well. I'd say pretty optimistic that they can make. I think they believe that they can make a third consecutive bowl game, which would be the first time in program history that would happen. So I think they're anxious because of the outgoing transfers, and I think it's definitely right to be concerned or skeptical about that. If they can replace all that talent that exited, like their starting quarterback, many of their top pass catchers from last season, their top rushers, some of their top defensive players. They have a lot going out, but they brought about 30-some guys coming in as well. So I think the talent that was brought into the program and into Las Cruces, combined with a little bit of some of the returning talents as well, especially some of the guys that have been around for a while, I think that's made the fan base have some belief and hope that they can reach that third consecutive bowl game and maybe even a conference title.
Wow.
So another piece you wrote in the Las Cruces Sun News, Nick, you talked about the quarterback competition going on. The transfer from Kentucky, Deuce Hogan, appeared to be leading the race. There was another guy, Parker Awad, and then also the transfer from Wake Forest and one other guy, transfer from UTEP, all in the mix. Where does that stand now, 10 days out from week one, from what you know?
Right. So I think a lot of people assumed that when Deuce Hogan transferred there, he was guaranteed to start and become New Mexico State's QB1. But when I got there and when I talked to Tony Sanchez, and that did not seem to be the case at all. The race throughout fall camp seemed to be very tight with Deuce, Parker, Santino Marucci, who's the Wake Forest transfer, and Jake McNamara, who was the UTEP transfer. They all seemed to be in a very tight competition with each other, and it was Deuce and Parker kind of on like a tier a little bit above Jake and Santino, but Santino and Jake are putting pressure on. This week, Tony told me and other members of the media that it's now a two-man race between Deuce Hogan and Parker Awad, and that they are going to wait until, if they're going to name a starter, they're not going to name one until at least the end of this week, maybe next week during the week of the Southeast Missouri State game. I would also not be surprised to see both Deuce and Parker get equal playing time in that game. I listened to a radio interview he did with ESPN El Paso. He mentioned that option. He also mentioned it to me in conversations that I've had with him. It seems to be a very tight competition with Deuce and Parker, and probably because they can bring different things. Deuce is probably more of a pocket passer, maybe has a little bit more arm talent, but Parker can bring more of a dual threat ability as well, and then maybe better with his legs. So it may just come down to what they prefer, what they want their offense to be like. But right now, I think it's very close between Deuce and Parker. I would not be surprised to see Parker Awad win the job. I would not be surprised to see both of them against Southeast Missouri State next Saturday, and of course, I wouldn't be surprised to see Deuce win it either. So tight competition between those two, and I think they'd want to get a starter before week 2 because that's when they play Liberty, and that'll be a tough game. But yeah, it's very tight. I don't know how close they are to a decision, but they're certainly not at one right now.
Ryan, I'll turn it back to you.
Tony Sanchez was under Jerry Kill. You've probably heard a lot about Jerry Kill in the last month since you've been there. He was under his staff. He's been the head coach at UNLV. He knows how to be a head coach. Can he keep the Jerry Kill momentum going? And I know that's not a fair assessment for Tony Sanchez. Mario Mocha said when they hired him, he was the guy for the job. In the month you've been there, what have you gathered from Coach Sanchez? And, they believe they're a 10-win team, but what have you noticed, I guess, most significantly from Coach Sanchez's demeanor in this team? And can they keep that momentum from the last 2 years, keep that train going? If that question made sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. He certainly brings a bit of an intensity, and that's what I've heard. Talking to other guys. I actually did get a chance to talk to Jerry Kill recently, and something I'm working on about Tony Sanchez, and he seemed to really like that. Tony was his successor. Everyone that I've talked to is pretty excited for him, and seems to like I said, he seems to be bringing a little bit of an intensity, a little bit of a little bit of an intensity, a little bit of kind of a certain kind of attitude in terms of maybe I've heard a lot of people talk about maybe he brings kind of a suave or a swagger to the team or something like that, and things like that, or that players that played under him maybe at UNLV or from out of Mexico State recently think he's going to bring that. So again, I think he's adding to the optimism that most Mexico State fans share about the program right now, and reaching a bowl game and maybe reaching another conference title game. But I do think it might be a little bit up in the air on whether he can continue it, and certainly on whether or not he can continue a 10-win season. I think that'd be great if they did achieve that, and if they did reach another conference title game. Admittedly, that's going to be very hard, especially with what's happened with a first-year head coach and all the outgoing transfers and things like that. But I feel like he certainly seems like he's done enough to establish confidence in the fan base with the intensity that he's bringing in, the charisma and all that kind of stuff. So he's definitely giving the fan base a little bit of hope, I'd say.
The right off the bat with this schedule, sorry, trying to produce the show and talk at the same time, not that easy. Liberty, Caden Salter, that team come back in. They have the running back, I can't think of his name, but they have a plethora of players from on that Fiesta Bowl that are coming back. They beat NMSU twice last year. I mean, they get UNM. You can ask Aggie fan, what's the bigger rivalry? Is it UTEP or New Mexico? I'm sure you get probably out of 10 people, 10 different answers. But how important is this Liberty game this early on this schedule and it being in Cruces for this program?
I think it's going to act as a very early litmus test for New Mexico State, and it's certainly going to be one they need, because on paper Liberty is easily the best team in Conference USA this year. You can argue there's some other contenders, maybe Western Kentucky or Jacksonville State or things like that, but the easy bet is definitely Liberty, and it's easy to see why. Of course, they went to the Fiesta Bowl last year. Their coach is coming. Their coach is coming back. Quentin Cooley is coming back. The running back that you mentioned as well. They returned some defensive talent as well. I think CJ Bazil. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name. He's one of the defensive linemen there at Liberty. So they certainly bring a lot of talents there, and it's going to be a very tough game for New Mexico State. I think. The Aggies, I think, are maybe a little fortunate to get them early, so they can just see what the team is like, and maybe they can get a baseline of how the team is going to play for the rest of the season, because that's kind of tough to get when you're playing an FCS opponent in the first game. And so it's definitely going to be an important game. It's definitely going to be a game where they would like to sort out their quarterback situation, because they certainly do not want two quarterbacks playing equally against a team like Liberty. But yeah, I think. They're going to get a warm up against SEMO, which they can sort some things out, figure out what needs to happen and what needs to go where, and they're going to have to, because Liberty's coming, and they're going to be one of the toughest, if not the toughest opponent that New Mexico State is going to play all season. So yeah, I think they might want to get them early, just to see where they're at, and maybe just get a tough game out of the way pretty early for the rest of the season. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an early testament to, I guess, how this team is going to play this season.
Caden Salter is a fantastic quarterback. I couldn't think of his name right off the bat. Quentin Cooley. His stats last year: 221 carries, 1,400 yards, 1,401 yards, 16 TDs, and he averaged just over 6 yards a carry. That is, I know it's Conference USA, but I don't care. Nick, did you want to ask a question about Jacksonville State, or shall I?
I can go ahead and take it. Jacksonville State, Rich Rodriguez, well-known name. He coached down here in the New Mexico Bowl a few years ago, coached at Michigan. This is going to be a competitive Conference USA. You looked at Conference USA Media Day, like you mentioned, Liberty's at the top, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky. But where do you see kind of New Mexico State falling in that pecking order after the top three around Jacksonville State and some of those other teams?
Yeah, I would definitely put them below all three of those teams: Liberty, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State. If I had to put money on it, I would say all three of those teams are going to have better seasons than New Mexico State's, and it will be extremely tough for New Mexico State to reach another Conference USA title game. For sure, and especially since Jacksonville State, so like you mentioned, they do have a lot of momentum right now. They had one of the best FBS debuts ever last season, going 9-4 and winning a bowl game, especially. Of course, they got an experienced coach. Rich Rodriguez has seen it all, and he's been in a lot of different places. I know they have. I don't know if they've sorted out their quarterback situation too, because I know they're in a battle between two other transfers like them, and then they got other guys coming in as well. But they do have they have a Georgia transfer in Andrew Paul and a Clemson wide receiver in Brandon Spector coming into their program, and so. You know, if you got talent coming from those programs, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism around those guys. Fred Perry was a really good safety for them last season as well. And of course, a lot of people share the optimism around Jacksonville State, because I think they were picked third in the preseason poll behind Liberty and Western Kentucky. And speaking of Western Kentucky, that's also going to be a really good, a pretty tough test for New Mexico State. They get them at home. Unlike Jacksonville State, they got to go there to Jacksonville, Alabama to play the Gamecocks. And Western Kentucky is also a team projected to have a strong season. They got some first place votes in the CUSA preseason votes. They're also in the preseason poll. They're also going through a quarterback battle. But they certainly bring back a couple of key offensive pieces. They return, I think it was 7 defensive starters that Western Kentucky returns as well. They finished top 15 in takeaways last season. So there's definitely a reason for optimism around Western Kentucky as well. And that'll be a very tough game for them, because Western Kentucky probably has the better team on paper, as does Jacksonville State. And so I definitely put New Mexico State below them in the pecking order. Not that they can't compete with those teams, but certainly I think right now there's definitely strong reason to put Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, and of course Liberty above New Mexico State right now.
One more question for you, Nick, and then I'll turn it over to my dad. You had a piece in the Las Cruces Sun News on August 14th. You previewed some of the transfers that are coming into New Mexico State. 31 transfers. I mean, to me, that sounds like a rebuild. You previewed 2 of the running backs, one of them being Seth McGowan, the other the transfer from Buffalo. Talk a little bit more about some of these transfers you see coming in, and now that fall camp has kind of come to a close, who you see having the biggest impact.
Right, yeah. So obviously the people that are going to make the biggest impact is definitely one of the quarterbacks. All 4 that competed for the starting job this camp were all transfers. So definitely whoever wins that job is going to have a big impact. Some of the first transfers that Tony Sanchez mentioned to me when I first got a chance to talk to him was Seth McGowan and Mike Washington from Buffalo. Obviously, Seth McGowan has a very interesting story. Was a 4-star recruit. Went to Oklahoma in 2020. I was there in Norman when I was a freshman. When he was a freshman, he did good, and of course some off the field troubles got him off the team, and he had to go to a JUCO. This will be his first season at the FBS level since 2020. But certainly he's still got the talents, and I definitely believe that they're expecting him to play a big role this season. The same thing for Mike Washington as well. He had a very good time at Buffalo. I think he combined for over 1,000 rushing yards in 3 seasons. They're at Buffalo, and Tony Sanchez has really raved about the camp that Mike Washington has had. So him. Seth McGowan, and they got another returner on their running back as well. So they expect to have a pretty deep backfield this season with those guys. They have a lot of brand new defensive linemen, especially a lot of defensive tackles. One of them is Naki Fahina, who's another guy I mentioned in that piece. He's from UNLV. He's over 300 pounds, likely going to be there at nose tackle in the trenches there for the Aggies. He was there in Tony Sanchez's final season with UNLV, so he's definitely very experienced. He's coming off he's had some injury troubles in 2022 that maybe led to a reduced role in 2023 with the Rebels, but they're definitely excited about him. Of course, he's going to be familiar with Tony Sanchez as well. There was a lot of hype around Josiah Cox, who was the safety from Arizona State. But when I talked to Tony Sanchez, he mentioned Nick Session, the transfer from Oklahoma State, as a safety that can really make an impact this season. He didn't really play much with the Cowboys there in Stillwater, but I think he's certainly looking to make an impact in Las Cruces. And Tony mentioned him as one of the guys to watch when I asked for just transfers. And so I think he's been really impressed with him as well. And there's 2 transfers from Sam Houston. I think let me look at their names: DeMarcus Crosby, a safety, and DeCara Cobbs, who's a corner. Both came from Sam Houston. They followed Joe Morris there, who's now the defensive coordinator there at New Mexico State, from Huntsville to Las Cruces. Both those guys might likely start. DeCara Cobbs at corner and DeMarcus Crosby at safety. Crosby earned first team All Conference USA honors last season. So I think if you're definitely looking for a chance to make an impact, you have to go to him as a guy who can make that, and certainly one of the guys on the defensive side of the ball that to watch out for. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to have over 30 transfers, there's definitely going to be at least a few who are going to make an impact, and definitely those guys that I just mentioned probably have the biggest chance to make an impact, and definitely the ones that Tony and the Aggies are the most excited about.
You know, Nick, I've just got one more question for you. You mentioned the optimism around the New Mexico State football program. Let's remember, before Jerry Kill got there wasn't a lot of optimism. They had struggled. Coach Kill definitely changed that culture. There's no question about it. He really did. Now, I've got to ask you this. The Lobos here in New Mexico have struggled to get fans into the stadium at University Stadium. Do you know what season ticket sales are at Memorial Stadium? Do you have any idea what kind of attendance they might be looking at for the first game? Have you heard anything about season ticket sales there?
I haven't really heard much about ticket sales or maybe season tickets or things like that. I know they didn't average a sellout last year there at Aggie Memorial, even though the team was really good. Maybe these past 2 seasons they maybe have inspired a little bit of confidence, and maybe that'll result in increased attendances as well. But I think they could probably get around maybe 18,000, 20,000 in there like they did last year, especially since this has been a good recent stretch of seasons for the program and things like that. I haven't heard specific numbers with season ticket sales related to New Mexico State, or how many fans are going to be in the stadium for the SEMO game or even the Liberty game or things like that. I'd imagine there'd be more in the stadium for that game, since it's a very important one. It's certainly something I can ask about. I've been granted pretty easy access to the coach and really anyone around the team, and I'm fortunate for that. And so I definitely feel like that's a question out there, and it might just be a wait and see kind of thing. We may not know how that happens until we actually get there into the game. So I'd like to cover games with full crowds and full attendances. So I think selfishly I might want a full stadium there for those games, but I don't know 100% anything about that.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think. I'm going to go to the comments. Nick, you'll probably learn this. There are a lot of NMSU alumni that live Albuquerque, Santa Fe. So there's a lot of alumni, and we've tried to branch out to that. We're all UNM alumni here, but don't branch to that. I'm objective. NMSU made me a lot of money last year. They like to cover. Nick Nunez, thanks for roster questions. Neat to see such a young beat writer such as Nick Coppola following his passion for sports. I'm an Aggie alum. No, you'll thoroughly enjoy your stint in Las Cruces. This is our friend Rick. Where is it? Oh, no.
Richard.
There we go. Sorry, I had it on mute. Nice job, Nick C. Great knowledge. Yeah, so he was texting me. You can find him at the Las Cruces Sun News. Find it online, since we're in Albuquerque and the majority of our listens are. He is Nick Coppola. Nick, if we have you on again, which we hope to have you on, trust, especially me, and I know Nick and Rick and Eric, all of us that aren't on, I'm laid back, and I've been in your shoes. I've been a rider. That was fantastic, man. I thank you for joining us. We will bug you during the season. We will probably bug you the week of the Aggie game, which is September 28th, and I'll probably see you down there. We appreciate your time, man. and I'll be reading your stuff as well as many that watch the show, and I know Ed will. So thank you for joining us, man, and thank you for taking time out of a Wednesday night this late. We got a half an hour out of you, so I really, really appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I enjoyed talking some football with you. It's one of my favorite things to do. And just in life is to talk about sports and talk about football and things like that. So yeah, I'd love to come back on. I love the fact that you guys invited me on. So it won't be bugging me. I promise. If you guys reach back out again, I enjoy the company. So I appreciate it.
I know you're fresh out of college, so I'm going to throw you one last softball question. Do you hate Oklahoma State more or UT?
I grew up in Lubbock, and then I went to Norman. So those two places definitely foster a deep hatred for the University of Texas. So I definitely say watching the Sugar Bowl last year gave me a rush of dopamine that I hadn't experienced before in a very long time. So yeah, definitely. I haven't really been fond of the Longhorns ever since I was a kid. So yeah, definitely Texas.
Well, you must love Kalen DeBoer, Michael Penix, and Roma Dunze. All right, his name is Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Nick, we will reach out to you. Thanks for joining us. Have a good rest of your night.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That was Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. I thought he was fantastic. He's only been there a month and listened to that plethora of knowledge, and I'm going to gather he's probably Italian, so, you know, I'm full of the mixer tonight. Ed, I'll start with you. What did you take away from that? I mean, he's only been there since August 5th. He's not even been there a month.
Young, enthusiastic. I was listening to him the last little part and comparing him to Sean Ryder. And, you know, Sean's a little bit more confident. I think Nick is going to be great, you know, but they both have, like you mentioned, a plethora of knowledge. The depth chart, he's already rattling off names like he's been there 3 months. He's going to be great. So I think it was great that we had him on. I'm not the biggest Aggie fan in the
3
world,
weeks.
you know that, but you know, John Romero is. I know that he's watching. So I think it's good that we had some New Mexico State talk. And I got to tell you this real quick, and I know you want to talk to my son too. It made me think about Jerry Kill and how he changed the culture at New Mexico State. He did quickly. So I might have amended my prediction for Saturday, but we'll wait till then.
Nick, your thoughts on both guests? I jumped right into your thoughts on J-Lo filing for divorce to Ben Affleck, but you know, we're here to talk New Mexico football. What were your thoughts on I'll start with Victor Flores if you were able to listen to that.
Yeah, no, I was, Ryan. I was putting my daughter down to sleep, but I did get to catch the last part of it. And no, he was great. I know Sean Ryder had him on, and then we had him on. But just to bring the insight that he did into Montana State football and just the proud program that they are. I mean, you talked about it at the end of the segment, 11.5-point favorite. I'm not a gambling guy, but you are. And you know, just the insight that he brought about the program, gave us some inside knowledge about what to expect. So I thought he was fantastic. To Nick Coppola, as my dad said, man, he's only been on the job 3 weeks. And I think another thing that we didn't even really touch on, because we talked a lot about New Mexico State, he covers high school sports down there too. So he kind of does it all for the Las Cruces Sun News. I think it helps, right, coming from a place like Lubbock, where football is king in Texas. Then he went to OU, where football is huge. And so coming to Las Cruces in New Mexico State, and this is no disrespect to John Romero or any of our Aggie listeners, you know, not the football pedigree that Texas has, or, you know, small towns in Texas or OU, but I think he's fantastic to be covering New Mexico State and Las Cruces sports. We're lucky to have him on.
When you say that, I mean, what was Rocky's record against NMSU? What, like 7-2 or 8-3 or 7-3? I don't know, but he very, you know, Loxley's regime went 0-3. I think Bobby lost one. I think to Danny's detriment, Coach Gonzalez he went 1-2 against New Mexico State, and both losses were by double digits. But I'm shocked that New Mexico State isn't more of a Like there's not a like that. I don't understand. I don't understand why they can't sell at that stadium, and especially when you had them on last year. Jacob and I, Neff and I watched them a lot. Again,
Yeah.
when I saw when I saw the point spreads, I was like, man, they're a better team than this. And I'm shocked. And I get what happened with the basketball program. You kind of had the death penalty. They're back. Jason Hooten's a fantastic coach. Again, we try to remain objective of here. I'm more fully invested, obviously, in UNM because we're here. This is what I cover. It's where I went to school. I'm invested in NMSU. Again, I'm growing up. I grew up in New Mexico. I almost went to school there. It was on my list. And I thought what Jerry Kill did down there in 2022 and 2023, almost at 2002 and 2003. But yeah, John. I thought he completely, what he did down there was that old Rocky Long quote of miracle worker. And there was a game last year. I can't remember if it was Louisiana Tech or who FIU, but they won. And Ed, we were talking about it. It was the end of the game. They made a defensive stop. They got a turnover or made a lost turnover on downs. And one of the players got a penalty. So it was a 15-yard penalty, but New Mexico State still had the ball, and Diego Pavia was kneeling to win the game. And Jerry Kill got in that defensive player's face, and it wasn't like, oh, you did wrong. It was finger in his fucking face, and I loved it. And yeah. I don't know what Bronco does, but we haven't talked about that. And Ed, I'll throw it your way before we wrap up with the question of the night. And this might be the question of the night tomorrow night when we're at Turquoise Desert Tap Room is there some similarities? I mean, Jerry Kill might be more of a hard ass, but are there some similarities between what Jerry Kill did at NMSU and what Bronco Mendenhall might do at UNM?
I think there is. Jerry Kill had success in Minnesota, and then, he had the seizures, and he had to step away for a couple of years. Think about what he did at New Mexico State. What he did was, as we say in Spanish, nothing short of a milagro. It really was. That program was down, not thought of highly. He came in and got them to 2 straight bowl games. So now Coach Mendenhall, that game you're talking about, by the way, Ryan, he grabbed that New Mexico State player by the jersey. I remember. He grabbed him by the jersey and was looking at the field. So I was like, wow. Now, I don't know that Coach Mendenhall is that kind of coach where he's screaming and yelling, but those players that we've talked to, and including former players, swear by him. They swear by his coaching. You heard what Landrick Brody said. They wanted to be on the starters wanted to be on the kickoff return team, which is unheard of. Why would you go down there kamikaze? So I think that said a lot. Curtis Flake said he knows it was a great hire. Mike Mahoric said that. Ian Clark, everybody that we had on that was that new coach knows Coach Mendenhall says he's a heck of a coach. And you've heard him talk about preparation, being the best when you need to be your best. I think coaching is going to make a huge difference. I really do. I don't know that we'll see it this year, but yes, Coach Mendenhall had a winning record at BYU, had a winning record in terms of the program around at Virginia. So maybe Jerry Kill did a great job in New Mexico State, but I think Coach Mendenhall will do a great job here at New Mexico. We may not see it right away, but he will rebuild this program. I have no doubt about it.
Nick, I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, no, I think there could be some similarities for sure. Both coaches have been around the game for a really long time. Now, I know you guys went to the football conference that Bronco Mendenhall had on Monday for UNM football. His demeanor to me is just a little different than Jerry Kill. Jerry Kill, super rough around the edges, tough guy. Bronco's a little bit more polished in my view. Just kind of the way that he talks, the way that he coaches. Jury's still out for him, right? I mean, he hasn't coached the game yet. We'll find out on Saturday. But I think the experience is absolutely parallel to what Jerry Kill had. We're starting from ground zero. So, yeah, similarities for sure, and definitely excited for what Bronco Mendenhall can do.
Before we get to wrap up the question of the night, and I'll post it here again, that way some of the listeners can comment on it, and then I want to get to some of the comments. What do you consider, what is a successful 2024 UNM football season to you? And I'll answer it as well. Paul Bonilla, strength of schedule 131 out of 133. Are you referring to New Mexico State or UNM? John Romero, here you go. Rocky was the head coach for you at UNM from 1998 to 2008 before Krebs fired him. September 19th, 1998, New Mexico State won down south 28-27. September 11th, 1999, they won 35-28, the Aggies. September 2000, 16-13 UNM. How about this one? This is where I turn on my Lobo hat. They had to play November 24th, 2001 because of September 11th. 53-0. 2002, New Mexico State won 24-13 in Las Cruces. And then Rocky never lost again. 2003, 24-17. 2004, 38-3. 2005, 38-21. 2006, 34-28. September 8th, 2007, that 44,000 in attendance. 34-28. 44-34, excuse me. And then down in Cruces in 08, I was at all the majority of those games, 35-24. So he ripped off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row and won 8 out of 11. So there you go. Here's back to the question of the night. What is a successful 2024 UNM football season to you? Hope we get some comments. Again, I've mentioned it kind of before, but we wanted to ask it now, is penalties. I found it in Frank's notes today. And where was it? Darn it. Nick, I'll go to you. What is a successful 2024 UNM football season to you while I find this?
Cliche answer, Ryan. I mean, I'm going to say improvement, right? We were 4-8 last year. We never really got traction with Coach Danny Gonzalez. You mentioned penalties, and you're going to pull out a stat that Frank Marcagliano gave us. But attention to detail. You know, we had Luke Wysong on the Morning Howl on Saturday. You replayed the interview that you guys did at Mountain West Conference Media Day. He talked about the attention to detail from the minute they walk in that locker room and make sure their locker's clean. I expect that this team is going to have much better attention to detail when it comes to the little things like that, which helps with penalties. Football is a complex game, man. The minute that the ref puts that ball down, I never played it myself, but so many things have to go right for you to have success. So improvement, attention to detail, I think if they focus on those things, results will come. I'm not going to put a wins, losses, what I want, what I think is successful. I just want to see them improve and have better attention to detail.
No, and it's all right. Back to John Romero. Darn it, I embarrass myself. Hate when it happens. And you know what I love hearing is when the Cruces people say that Albuquerque is just full of Heisenberg, Walter White wannabes and meth heads. Joke's on you. I love this mixer. I don't use it enough. New Mexico, this is from Frank's notes. That should be a new segment. I wonder what's going on in Eric and Ed's mind as I say that. New Mexico was flagged 15 times for 155 yards against Utah State in the finale last year, meaning the Lobos were the most penalized team in the country in terms of yards per game at 83.5. Total penalties at total penalties at 104. And penalties per game at 9.5. Overall, UNM was flagged for 119 penalties, accepted, obviously, which was one off the record of 120 set in 1982. The 1,076 yards in penalty was easily record-topping the 1,029 in 1978. I have said this on this show. I think they are probably a handful of penalties away and a turnover away from being 6-6. They lost to Nevada. They shot themselves in the foot. And then Utah State. They beat Nevada and Utah State. Bronco Mendenhall is probably not head coach here. I really, truly believe that. I wanted Danny to win. I've heard some grumblings. We like Danny. We loved having him on the show. I wonder if there was a level of care and if Danny saw the writing on the wall. But it's very, very weird to ask because I think of how much he loved UNM and he was from Valley and he was one of us. Google gobble. I think it was very weird. When we play that highlight of Hank Baskett catching that touchdown pass from Cole McCamey, which we've had on the show last week, and go to our YouTube channel and find that. He was a fantastic interview, and that's got to appeal to the guys down south. He's an Artesia kid, and we hope to give you guys more NMSU coverage for any Aggie fan that does watch us. But again, we predominantly cover UNM in the Mountain West. And I forgot what I was saying, but I truly lost my train of thought there. Wow, really bad. It's been a long day. Anyway, fantastic host I am. The Hank Baskett Tacoma came. When you see that crowd there, I mean, we always talk about how you could not walk through the concourse or whatever that is, the aisle in between the top bowl and the lower bowl. I don't know if we'll ever get to those days, especially with what Bob Davie did. I don't know if Bob Davie was really liked by the community, and I think, Ed, you've hit on that.
Coach Davie in the offseason lived in Scottsdale. That's his right to live wherever he wanted. But I never thought he's a community guy. I never thought he loved Albuquerque and wanted to be here. He had those 2 winning seasons, and there was some talent there. I think we need to remember that. But it did not move the attendance meter at University Stadium. They averaged 22,000 fans a game when they had a good team, a very good team. So I hope things change. We talked to Jeff Symbieta, Ryan, in Las Vegas about the stadium. That stadium definitely needs some work, but they're not going to do anything with it. And now you've got a new AD coming in, they're looking for a new AD. So a lot of things could change, but I'm hoping that they're going to, I think you're going to see some real improvement with Coach Mendenhall. You may not see, more than 5 wins, but I think the team itself will be much better. I really do. An overall product will be, and you mentioned the penalties. My son mentioned the penalties too. And I think Miguel Sanchez in the comments made a reference to the penalties. If those things improve, how many you mentioned, Ryan, they would have won a couple more games last year. So maybe they're a more disciplined
Miguel
team.
Sanchez.
Yeah. Maybe they're a more disciplined team under Coach Mendenhall. I would expect that they would be. He talks about it. Preparation, execution, being your best when you need to be your best. So, yeah.
There it is. Success in my eyes. I read that earlier, but success in my eyes would be near the lowest in the Mountain West Conference in penalties and turnovers.
Miguel Sanchez.
How about in the nation? I wanted to bring this up because before we sign off, I understand it's a basketball town, and I've mentioned this story when I went to the Boise State game last year. My buddy that I work with, half my team that I do in my day job is here in Rio Rancho in Boise, Idaho. And I'd always wanted to go see a game at Boise, and I was able enough to go and, press credentialed and blah, blah, blah. So I was able to stand on the Smurf turf. It was awesome. And it felt like a mini NFL stadium. I don't get that at UNM. I don't get that at University Stadium at all. It's in a hill. It is what it is. I defend the pit. I always used to defend every time I'm back east and I'm talking to somebody sports side and they're like, oh, UNM, the pit, especially when I was at CBS, I defended the pit. There's something about it. And that was something about walking into Albertson Stadium. And when I got picked up at the airport, my flight was after that St. Mary's game. I was at the airport at 3 a.m. I hate to fly. I was so tired. I didn't care. I could have been bombing France in 1944 and I wouldn't have cared. When I got picked up, my buddy Eddie, he was like, hey, let me take you by the campus. We'll grab something because it was roughly around noon and I was hungry. And when we pulled up to the campus, then downtown Boise's right there, he pointed at the stadium and then we were driving down on campus and he pointed at everything. He goes, Chris Peterson paid for this. Chris Peterson paid for that. The old coach there. What winning in football can do for you is not only change the complex, and I'm probably ranting on things that our listeners already know, is winning at football can change the complexion not only of the athletic department, but the university as a whole. And I always make the joke about the mediocrity in Albuquerque and New Mexico. And it's like, oh, if we got to a Sweet 16, no. What's the line in Major League, and I always usually have it queued up. How about you win the whole fucking thing? If Bronco Mendenhall can change this, and if they can somehow win 10 games, the stadium would be upgraded. When I went to the first practice, that hill inside the stadium just had weeds growing. If I am a recruit, why would I come and play here? As a 3-4 star recruit, I have other offers, and I see that stadium. It's just my opinion. And I transitioned to that because look at what a school, and I know it's a bigger school, is doing. And I think, Nick, you sent this to me. I'd seen it earlier. I saw this post earlier in the day. Oklahoma State has a QR code on the back of their helmet. It's an NIL fund QR code on the back of the helmet for 2024 to donate money. They even have it on their page. I don't think UNM has that on Go Lobos. But I think what winning can do for UNM, like it did for Boise State, is not only change that program and the money it has, but the university as a whole. And I usually don't go off topic like this or change subject. It's still an institution of higher education, as much as I love college sports. So that is my final rant. Nick, you sent that, you saw that. What do you think about OSU putting that QR code, NIL fund QR code on the back of their helmet? I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, this is just how NIL is evolving. I mean, you're a fan, you can scan the QR code if you're at the game. I don't know if it has the capability while you're on screen watching on TV, but somehow they found a way for fans to be interactive. And I think we saw this a little bit during the NCAA tournament. I think there was some deal where you could send on NIL money to one of your favorite athletes. I could be wrong on that, but I thought I remembered seeing some of that in the NCAA tournament. So it's just NIL evolving. OSU is one of the first programs that we've seen do it. I'm sure we'll see other programs do it more. And yeah, hopefully UNM 505 Sports Venture, we can, start the process for something like that for the Lobos.
Kurt's done a great job. Ed, I thought about my mom when I saw the QR code on the helmet, because she does watch college football, and I can just see her asking me about it. But I mean, how things have changed and how we are evolving halfway. It's almost the end of 2024. When you see something like that, I mean, just the evolution immediately within NIL.
I read that this morning on my sports report for 99.9 FM, and I had to read that twice. I was like, yeah, everything's evolving. And then, you mentioned Kalen DeBoer earlier. Courtney Morgan has been hired over there at Alabama as the general manager of the football team. They're starting to hire general managers, and he's being paid $825,000 a year. So things are changing right before our eyes every day. And when I read that story today, I think I had to read it twice. And yeah, they won't be the only ones doing it. But yeah, that's the changes that are happening so quick in college athletics.
I don't know. I think that's fascinating. And I don't know. I'm a Mike Gundy guy, regardless of how much stupid shit he says. The mullet, the power of the mullet, which I think he cut off. Greg Lujan changed the culture. I hope you're agreeing with me there, because usually nobody really does on this show. Hey, we're going to be live tomorrow night at Turquoise Desert Tap Room. It's on 528. It's a hop, skip, and jump away from Santa Ana Star Hotel and Casino. Go make a bet. Come talk shit with us tomorrow night. We'll have a full preview of the game, and then we'll also do it again Saturday morning. We're giving away 2 tickets tomorrow night. And there it is. You can't really see it. I apologize. We'll post it on our social media. 2 tickets. We love Armando over there. He's the owner. He's fantastic. They're having a rib special. If you order the special, you qualify to be in the drawing to win season tickets to the 5 games this year, which the first one is Saturday against Montana State. Then they host Fresno State. They're gone a month. Then they host Wyoming. Oh, no, it's Air Force. I keep forgetting it. Let's just take a look at it real quick before I let everybody off. There. Oh no, that's basketball. That's basketball. Anyway, you know what? Forget it. I don't want to keep anybody longer. But it's Montana State, Washington State, Air Force, Fresno State, and I keep forgetting the fifth one there. But we will also be live Saturday morning, which is our first day of college football. It's week 0. UNM has that only game on TV, standalone game, 2:00 on FS1. Rob Portnoy, Dontrell Moore will be on the call. Tim Brando will be in town for FS1. That's a big name. Montana State kickoff. I think it's going to be 90-something degrees. I don't know whose idea that was, but when you get a spot on TV, hey, we'll be coming to you live at 9 a.m. that morning. Morning Howl. We'll have Jacob Neff, Rick Thompson on, previewing that game. And then other action around college football that day. There's only 4 games. Georgia Tech, Florida State kicks off at 10 a.m. on ESPN. Delaware State plays Hawaii. Delaware State missed their 10.5-hour flight at JFK to get to Hawaii. That sounds really shitty. And then Nevada hosts SMU. 2 Mountain West teams, and the 2 teams that were voted to finish 11th and 12th are pretty big underdogs. That line is still 11.5. Check us out on Twitter. X. The artist formerly known as Twitter, at thepitpressnm.com. Check out our Instagram at thepitpressnm. I hope I said that right. Check out our website at thepitpressnm.com, and you can email us at thepitpressnm@gmail.com. Special thanks. I always appreciate Eric and all the work he does visually. Nick or Ed, any final thoughts? And I'll start with Nick.
Lobo fans, get out to the game on Saturday, 2 p.m., University Stadium. One of our last comments from Greg Lujan, change the culture. Let's all change the culture. Get out and support the Lobos.
Ed, I throw it to you.
You know, my son and I have a busy weekend. I've got Highland Manzano on Friday night, and then my son and I are going to call West Mesa St. Pius together on Saturday and then head to the Lobo game. So we've got a busy weekend of football, and I know he and I are really looking forward to it. So go Lobos, man. Good. That's like my son said, let's see if they can change the culture starting Saturday. It's going to be a very tough, tall order. Montana State's a heck of a team.
We've been talking about this for a month and a half now, and we are about 48 hours away, roughly 60 hours away from kickoff. And I was excited last year going to Texas A&M. I don't know. I want to say I'm excited. I'm very intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how Bronco Mendenhall is going to do, because he brings a lot of success with him. And as I've mentioned, he has won at Virginia. He has won at BYU. Can he win here? Because if he can't win here, who can? I really, truly believe that. John's facts are more fuzzy than Donald Trump's. LOL. Wow. Yeah, well, I didn't want to be political, but I was going to go that route. We appreciate everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We will be live tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Same bat time, same Lobo time, same Lobo place. We'll be at Turquoise Desert Tap Room, except that's a lie. 7 o'clock with my terrible Adam West Batman impression there. Same bad time, same bad place. Hopefully, I got to reach out to Dontrell Moore. We're going to try to have somebody on. We've booked guests mostly there for the giveaway, but we're going to break down the game a little bit tomorrow night, and then again Saturday morning, the Morning Howl. Appreciate everybody listening. Want to thank our sponsors, Hydrobar, Affordable Solar, Affordable Service, Turquoise Desert Tap Room. Again, we will be there tomorrow night. Everybody have a good Wednesday night. Stay safe, and we will talk to you on Thursday. Have a great Thursday.
Our head coach of our Lobo football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
Details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.